Craft have won multiple Apple Awards for Best App. They've also had $20 million in funding. And now their founder, Balint Oros, is going to show me how agents are going to change how we work and how they're going to live inside of your documents. Forget about chatbots in the sidebar. This is AI that actually does the work. Today, he's given me a first look at Craft agents and what happens when your notes start working for you. Hey folks, before we begin, if you're interested, you can go over to toolfinder.co and get access to our newsletter, which dives into the latest AI tools, as well as getting you software discounts on the best ones every single week. Check it out below. And for those who enter in February, you'll get entered to win a Remarkable Paper Pro. Check it out below, but on with the interview. It's good to see you, Balint. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I've been excited because you showed me a few months before the agent side of stuff with the NCP setup. So I'm really interested in sort of seeing how Craft Agents is coming along. Would you be able to sort of show us a little bit about how it works and some of the basics?
Yeah, before that, maybe I'll just, as a disclaimer, Craft Agents is not a commercial product, right? It's kind of something we built for ourselves, and kind of so many people were asking that we open sourced it. So it's kind of, free for anybody to use. So it's really not your typical, very refined onboarding, all sorts of types of things. But it is, I think, for our use cases, very powerful. Also, another disclaimer is I am a developer, designer, product person, all of those things. And in Craft in the last month, kind of everybody has became a developer in ways. So marketers updating the marketing website, finance team writing scripts and all sort of things to automate a lot of their workflows. So it might be, if I show or as I show how I use it or what I do it for, I'm going to show what I'm doing for. So it might be, not super technical, but just a little bit more technical on that side of things. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
It's crazy how things are just moving where like a month ago is very,
Yes.
the pace of it is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to share I'll try this one. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah. Lovely.
Cool. So Craft Agents is kind of my new inbox in this perspective. So it's like 3 weeks old, the product, and I have like 1,300 conversations. So it's really like an email inbox, a very, very busy email inbox in this perspective. And, the way this setup is, really similar, like, a productivity app or an email inbox, because how would we at Craft set it up? So essentially, every conversation, if you start a new conversation, has a status. You can customize these status. I'll show you more about that. And then you can start chatting. And obviously, we also have labels, which help you organize these things. Now, labels are quite advanced. So let's say if I want to add something like, I think, releases, if I want to create a new release, I can add a value to it. So I can make 2.3. And then from here, the tag has its value itself. So I think those type of standard productivity organization things. Now, the interesting about Craft Agents is it can also connect to anything in the world. And I have a number of connections, but just for the live demo sake, because I think that's easiest to demo is Francesco, what do you think? What should I connect to? So tell me an app. I'm not connected to anything right now, and I'll show you how we do the connection flow.
Okay. Stick with Gmail or something basic.
Yeah, but I have Gmail connected.
You have it.
Try something hard.
All right. Telegram.
Okay. Does Telegram have an API? Let's check.
I'll give you a tricky one. I just saw the first one I saw on my home screen.
So really, the whole concept of Craft Agents is it's built very AI native. So
okay.
Right now, we're using infinite AI credits or tokens inside of Craft because we believe in the future these will be very cheap. And the best way to understand how systems will work if we jump inside of that future, and that's how we can help. So what happens at this point is it tries to understand how it can connect to Telegram because we didn't tell it. So it does a web search. You can see here that it, looked at all of these links, how to create a bot and getting your token, how to authenticate against that. It found the bot API documentation, so it's going to check some more things around that. It found an MCP, or it's searching for an MCP. Maybe Telegram has that. We'll see it.
Hmm.
soon. And then essentially, it will go on and generate essentially the API code so it can automatically connect to anything.
Right.
Let's say it found a lot of MCPs for Telegram, so I think it's going to select one for me.
Hmm.
Um, and there's, a number of options that came up to it. So I just say, choose the best. And meanwhile, as it connects, essentially, once you do have connections, you can just easily, use these connections to do anything, right? Sentry is our error reporting system. So I just might ask, what is the top bug / issue in the Craft iOS app? And then it will, go there for me.
Hmm.
Now jumping back, it's now getting the MCP, right? It's installing an MCP
Nice.
on my machine. It has everything. It's going to set it up. It creates the Telegram source for me. The other interesting thing is when it does create a source, it sets up essentially a permission system for that source.
Okay.
Because we have this explore mode and this execute mode. And explore mode is really, it doesn't do anything. It reads a lot of things. And when you set up an API connection, it figures out that, let's say I can get, any type of emails, but I cannot write any type of emails in Gmail. And then, once you're ready to execute, you just switch to another mode. So in the meanwhile, I need to switch a permission mode here. So I'll go forward. Now it added test Telegram didn't work out, but it's figuring out.
Nice.
Oh, we need a Telegram bot. So kind of, I won't be able to connect, but once I have a bot token and a chat ID, I will be able to connect to Telegram.
Nice.
But I think that is kind of the interesting thing about it. That's how easy it is to connect to anything. You just tell it to do it. And probably if I were more persistent of say I don't have a bot, I'll just try and run in the background. We'll see at the end.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's like a lot of friction that people get at the start when they want to set up these sort of things, and that's quite handy that has that,
Yeah.
And the documentation side.
Yeah. So just authenticate it here. Now, on my side of things, like, some of my typical workflow might be is we now have a beautiful new mermaid renderer. It's kind of an open source library released yesterday. And actually, even, some of the PKM apps now, like I think Capacities is using it, but a lot of, in a day, a lot of them integrated into it. So obviously, I kind of, want to be able to maintain that. So I might say, look at this project's GitHub issues and tell me what's new, what we should fix. And the other thing is you don't need to type nice, right? It understands everything you do. And it should be able then to, pull all of my information inside. Now, as you can see, AI takes time. And I think one of the reasons we have this interface with the terminal is I usually have a lot of chats open. So if I look at, all of the things I did today, so I'm just going to look at all of the things. So kind of,
Wow.
yeah, I woke up early in the morning. It's probably
Busy.
like, 40, 50 chats, right? Around those things. And I'm also, while I'm here, you can see I'm jumping because I started something and it says, hey, now actually here are the top issues in Craft iOS. And I could even say, this is the fun part. This is kind of our iOS code base of can you check if you can fix them. And then it's going to go in the background. In the meanwhile, it came back to Telegram of, if I can go to still Telegram apps, so probably Telegram's not going to work for that. We'll see where it goes with the GitHub issues.
Nice.
Let's keep the open source issues for a project. So you can see this is a very connected, but also very strong multitasking issue in this perspective. You can see how it's getting the issues, and it's now going to summarize very, very quickly for me what's happening. And it's just a very interesting way of doing things, of how you're jumping between so many things, as each of these tasks take 2-3 minutes. And I can see there are a few issues now, like we need to solve CK Chinese text clipping.
Right.
But really, I think that is the high level overview of how I use it, essentially.
Nice. I like how the statuses work and things like that. But from like somebody who's run a productivity app for so many years, how do you think it's changed the way that your mind works with things? Because you're like, instead of doing like one thing at a time, you're doing like eight things at a time. How does that shape? How do you think agents going to shape that?
So I think it's very interesting because apart from me using this now, a lot of people, like everybody in craft, is using it very actively. Again, this is something we built for ourselves.
Hmm.
And really for managers, it becomes very natively. Because I've been doing 10 things at a time. I get email, I Slack, I get a mail from you, I respond there. I'm in a meeting. When I'm out of meeting, I have five different things to do. And also, this vibe coding type of thing. So when I say, hey, what are the issues, and which one should we fix, is what I have been doing essentially with other people, right? So
Mm.
it's kind of natural. I'm an engineer, but most of the systems in craft I didn't build, but I have an understanding of them through the people I worked with them.
Yeah.
So it is a very interesting thing I find is these capable models are very much like individuals, right? If, for instance, they come up with a solution and you say that solution is wrong, they will defend it. But if you start coaching them up, by the way, did you consider this area as well or that area as well, they will be a lot more cooperative of understanding and just saying, oh, actually, the initial solution was wrong, but I have a better one.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting dynamic. And it is a little bit addictive in that perspective because anything is like 10 minutes away. So it has that dopamine of with people, you agreed on something, they went out and kind of in a day or two or a week, you had something, right?
Yeah.
Here, everything is 10 minutes away. And I think that is a real challenge in terms of keeping focused of what you want to do, because any idea you have, you can now do. Really.
Yeah.
You just ask it how to do it. And if you learn this skill of ask it, I want to do this, how do I do this? Do this for me. And it just does it. So
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. But it puts the ballpark on like decision and creativity as your two skills, and you gotta narrate that. With how you've sort of been going with it, what's the sort of craziest example of somebody using this so far, whether that's in your team or from any customers who have jumped on it?
So I think all of them fall in that same category of people who were blocked by external resources now can execute.
Mm.
Like, I think, in our marketing website, we always had constraints. We don't have engineers for the marketing website, right? We have product engineers and they really always want to work on the hard stuff, not on the marketing website. So marketers always had this challenge of, they couldn't do things because there has been a bottleneck there, and now they just can do things.
Mm.
But also, I think internally of how an engineer now moves across code bases, like it doesn't matter if the back and front end, or actually our designers, instead of working in Figma, they work directly in the code base. So if they say that button is not good, we just say, why don't you fix it? And they're just, oh yeah, I'm just gonna fix it. So I think it's this whole boundaries and what's happening is really breaking down. And really our experience has been is the more you set impossible goals,
Mhm.
the more you understand what is possible. So I've been, I think I built this app in like, 3-4 weeks with another individual here. And
Right.
it's a very polished application. So you can download it, check it out. It
Mhm.
is, it is, very refined. And I never did. It's actually not a native application. It's Electron, and I
Right.
never did web development. I'm an iOS kind of Mac type of guy, so it's not something I ever did before. And that is really interesting because if you would have told me a month ago that this is possible, I would have said it's absolutely not possible. There's no way.
Yeah.
And that was with engineers as well. Of we had some of performance challenges inside of the craft application.
Mm.
For 5 years we were aware of them, but we know it's so deep. You need to go so deep that it takes like 2-3 weeks just to understand, and then the fixing is risky. And now we were able to identify and fix them in one day.
Yeah.
So I think the more you look at that exponential gap, and it's not with everything. So it's not
Mm.
every project or every task becomes 10 or 20 times faster, but specifically the very hard ones become faster. The more mundane ones, less so. So I
Mm.
think that is it's so weird because what people do is they start with the simpler things and it's like 20-30% faster with them, but it makes some mistakes. They say, oh, it's not that good. But then when you put it on the hardest problems you have,
Mm.
it's just like, wow. So I
Yeah.
think with this tool as well, I connected my craft space through MCP, and most people would start add a task or things like that. And I was just like, reorganize my entire folder structure in my workspace because I haven't touched it for 6 years and I don't like it. And like in 5 minutes, I had a perfectly organized, folder system,
Yeah.
which was exactly how I wanted to do, but I would have never done it manually. So I think these are those magical moments where you're just, wow.
Yeah, yeah. The friction of like a hard task just drops off, which makes everything easier. And like that's a question as well. Like in terms of the craft team, would you say that that sort of thesis or relationship with AI has made your team faster in itself?
Yes, so I think again this month has been a very big push for us of saying we
Mm,
should all properly evaluate it. and and it's very clear, like I think in this release we fixed around 250 bugs. We had a 600 list, long list of bugs, and kind of that
right.
every year just a little bit keeps growing. We always fix the critical ones, but there are these things, oh, this is hard, we only got one report of that, maybe it's hard
Mm,
to reproduce. And suddenly I'm getting a little bit scared because my backlog is shrinking of, like, in 1 month, what am I going to give engineers? And
yeah.
of course you could say, why don't we build new features? But building new features is like, then you pile up, unrefined stuff. And that's not what fundamental users want. Good features take not just development time, but thinking time, testing time, refining time. So it is this very interesting situation where I think for the next 2, 3 months we still have backlog, bugs and
Mm,
items and things like that. But then it's a big question of what do we do with this extra capacity? Because it does speed up, the team insanely.
definitely, yeah, yeah. And like, what is the like as a sort of final question? What does the biggest mistake that people make, like even from a team or anyone, when they get started using this? Like, I think you mentioned a little bit of it there, like not thinking big enough to what the problems you want to solve. But what's the biggest mistake that people typically start off with when they're like approaching things agentically?
So I think it's the same as with management. I can really compare this to managing, people in that way of trying to control the details too much.
Okay.
Right? Let's say you're a person, you know how to do something, and you say, do this, small thing, and it doesn't do it the way you want, and you try to force it to do it the way you want.
Hmm.
Rather than focusing on outcomes, you're focusing way too much on the interim steps of those outcomes. And that, because it's different, it's like, somebody new coming in, they did something differently. They might be extremely capable, but if you micromanage them, right, their capabilities will never be shown.
Mm.
That's one. The other is really, there's just a massive difference in the best. Like I only use, and the team only uses Opus. Like even
Okay.
when we go on Sonnet, it's just for these type of, 100 step, activities, it's not going to function. And if you don't use the latest and greatest, then it's quite expensive. So it's not you cannot really expect everybody to do that. But then you're just getting a very false picture of where the world is heading.
Yeah.
So I think those are those things that I see where it takes time for people to let go and focus on outcomes and let it do its job. And at the end, review the work after a longer session versus interim. But I think, and also even in craft, when we said kind of you can use as much as you want, they were like, yeah, but the cheaper model is finer for me because this is a smaller task. And those were the two, I think, biggest challenges that,
Right.
they needed to overcome.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot for the moon on the models. I love it. And where can people get hold of craft agents, or how are things progressing with that?
So you can just go to agents.craft.do, or you can, and you can download the GitHub part. Oh, there's one thing I really want to show you.
Yeah, yeah, do.
The interesting thing about Craft Agents is it's open source. Now, what that means is you can modify Craft Agents. So I'm now, let's say, in Craft Agents, and what should we modify here? Like,
Hmm.
let's make that new chat button less wide.
Yeah,
Okay, one half of it. So the new chat button in the left sidebar should be half width. And kind of what happens here is it will make it half the width. You'll see kind of it's probably going to take 1, 2 minutes. But where this goes is, I think, is this software which you can bend or mold to your needs.
mm,
Right? In personal productivity, we have this with craft where 80% of what craft has is perfect for everybody, but 20%, and the different 20%, everybody wants different. And you cannot create a software that works, differently for everybody.
mm,
And it's really hard if you add hundreds of toggles, people aren't going to know how to customize it. But suddenly, now when you have a base, but it's not working for you, one smart part of it, if you imagine in the future, you just tell the software to change that, and all of those, is just gonna, it's now presented a plan, so I'm gonna accept that plan, and hopefully in then 20 seconds we'll see that it's, half of the width.
Mm.
And really, this is just a button, but anything. Oh yeah, you see
Wow.
it's half of the width.
That's incredible.
And with anything you can do that. And I think that is really the future of software I'm super, super excited about, of this really truly customizable,
Yeah.
You don't need to build from scratch, but if you like something, you can
Yeah.
make that one or two tiny thing that make it really work for your workflow.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I get so many requests from people like, I absolutely love this app, but I moved to another one because it didn't have this 10% thing. And I'm like, that's lovely, but it's also, sometimes you can't do it. But if you can start to do that with this, I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's
And
brilliant.
it's as easy. You just say what you want. So that, I think, is the crazy
Yeah,
part. And this is available only possible with open source.
right.
And I think because Craft Agents is not a commercial product, we're really looking forward to experimenting with this angle as well, of how can non-technical people now actually change the software for their liking, which is really
Yeah,
empowering.
that's insane. That's insane. I could go for hours playing with that. Brilliant.